Hello, my little virtual friends. Today we are going to be looking at some of the Reading Star passages. Just based off of what I saw on your checkpoints, we need to kind of go over a few things. So I wanted to go through an actual Reading Star passage with you, something that is going to start becoming a little bit more familiar to you, and just go through it and show you a lot of the strategies that hopefully you guys are already using, or you know of and you're not using and you need to be using them. Whatever the case is, you guys, I'm really big on using strategies. If you don't use them, you are not going to be as successful. Strategies help you. They help. So let's go ahead and get started. So this passage is called The Case of the Missing Granola Bar. And I like to highlight or underline my title because it's easy to identify the title. You can make inferences about the title. It tells you a good chunk of what you're more than likely going to be reading about. So it is an important text feature to identify what the title is. So the next strategy that I really want you guys to make sure that you're using is the PIE strategy. This is for your author's purpose, where you're defining the persuade, inform, entertain, all that good stuff for the author's purpose. It's very helpful to have it just in case you get a passage question on or about what the author's point of the passage is. So I like to write that there so you can keep it in mind as you're reading or listening, in this case, for what could possibly be the purpose of the author's purpose of writing this passage for you guys. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm starting on line 1. Hey, somebody ate my granola bar. Regina was holding up an empty paper bag. Her eyes were wide and her voice trembled. Who would want to steal granola? Andrew asked. I'm glad they didn't get my cookies. My mother made it with oats and honey, Regina said quietly. Miss Sullivan walked over to Regina and asked to see the bag. It still had a few crumbs in it. Where did you leave this bag, Regina? It was right here in my desk with my lunchbox. Andrew came over to look at the bag. It has a tear in it at the top, he pointed out. We've got to find the thief. A murmur rippled through the 4th grade classroom. Some kids were looking in their own desks to check that their snacks were safe. Now let's not jump to hasty conclusions, Miss Sullivan said. We don't know that anybody in this room took the granola bar. So I want to stop here on sentence 7 because we can clearly see that there is a bolded and underlined word here, and I want to highlight it. You guys will more than likely need to just underline it since you're not allowed to have highlighters during your STAR test, but I'll underline it for you as well. This is just something that I feel is important to do as soon as you see it, because more than likely, about 90% of the time, you're going to have a question that revolves around this specific vocabulary word. All right, let's continue. Andrew went back to his own desk, shaking his head. As usual, he had an opinion. Somebody took it, Miss Sullivan. Granola doesn't just disappear. True, but it's possible that the granola fell out of the bag. Miss Sullivan helped Regina look through her desk and her backpack. A few of the girls in the class checked around the desk. Andrew made a few of the boys in the class laugh as he went to the science cabinet and found a hand lens. Miss Sullivan, we need to find some forensic evidence if we're going to close this case. Miss Sullivan was about to scold him when she saw Enola sitting with her hand raised. Yes, Enola? Andrew is goofing around, but he might be right. Maybe we should gather information and help us draw the best conclusions. Enola loved science. Enola, it's hard to argue with your logic, Miss Sullivan continued. We'll treat this like an investigation. Enola is the lead detective. So we have finished the left side of the STAR reading passage. Let's go ahead and move on to the right, starting on sentence 14. The students in Miss Sullivan's class scrambled to look for clues. Enola organized the kids into teams. Each team focused their effort on a different part of the classroom. One team was in charge of interviewing Regina and any other students who had seen Regina's bag with the granola bar. The classroom was buzzing with excitement as children crawled under tables, snooped behind bookshelves, and inspected every surface in the room. Andrew was in charge of evidence. He had sealed the empty paper bag in a large gallon-sized freezer baggie. He wasn't sure why this was necessary, but he had seen the detectives on televisions treat evidence this way. Some of the other boys wanted to have evidence bags as well. Miss Sullivan, Enola, a girl named Eliza waved from across the room. Our team may have found something. We may have lost something. What do you mean? Miss Sullivan and Enola looked into the guinea pig terrarium that Eliza was indicating. Everything seemed to be in place. The exercise wheel, the pipe tunnel, the potted plants, and decorative rocks. Everything looks... Then she realized that Mr. Nibbles was missing. She smiled as she signaled the class to attention by clapping her hands. I think we have found our culprit, Miss Sullivan announced. Here is another sentence, you guys, that has a bolded and underlined word in it. This is something else that I would suggest that you underline. I'm going to go ahead and keep reading, though. Or rather, we have lost our thief. Enola gathered the teams together and gave them new assignments. It didn't take the class long to find Mr. Nibbles. He was behind the reading pillows, cleaning the last bits of honey-covered oats from the fur around his mouth and nose. He seemed not to notice the whole class staring at him. Regina held him up for the class to see. Andrew said, "He looks guilty to me, Miss Sullivan." Everyone laughed and returned to their seats as Regina took Mr. Nibbles and placed him back in his terrarium. Case closed, Andrew pronounced from his desk. All right, you guys, so we just finished reading the passage. Now, there is another huge text feature that I see on this right side that we really need to make note of, and you guessed it, it is the picture here. Now, a lot of passages that have pictures in them, they're there to help you. So this picture is of Mr. Nibbles. He is the guinea pig that the story is revolving around. So we're just going to go ahead and make note of it. We're reminding ourselves that that's Mr. Nibbles and that it is a part of the passage. So let's go ahead and get started on looking at the questions. I know that right now this side of the passage doesn't have a whole lot going on, but at the end we're going to notice a huge difference. So let's go ahead and start with number 1. Read this dictionary entry. Hasty, adjective, moving or acting quickly. Which of the following words rhymes with the first syllable of hasty? Well, now, if you guys remember, this is the bolded and underlined word that we highlighted or underlined in sentence 7. So I told you guys more of the times than not, when we see a bolded or underlined word, we're going to have a question on it. Now, this one, it wants us to look at the dictionary entry, and it wants us to find words that find out the word that rhymes with the first syllable of hasty. Now, typically when we are looking at syllables, I know many of you remember when your teachers would ask you to clap to hear the syllables. So when we say the word hasty, we want to find out how many syllables it has. So what we would do is we clap. So we'll say the word and we'll clap. So hasty, hasty, hasty. Okay? Typically you'll say it with it, but you won't be able to hear me if I'm clapping and saying it at the same time. So the word hasty has 2 syllables. But here's the thing, guys, that I want to show you that is a huge tip trick. This question has the dictionary entry in it. And in dictionary entries, they list the syllables out for you. So if you'll notice right here, it has the syllables separated for us to see. Now, if you don't have a dictionary entry, but it's asking you about the word, you can still use the clapping method to figure out the syllables if that's what the question is asking for you. So we're looking at the broken down syllables in the dictionary entry. So we see that it says hasty. So it does agree with us in our clapping that it is 2 syllables. But we only want to look at the first syllable, which would be hey. So now we're going to go through our answer choices and see which one rhymes. So A, we have past. Hey, past. That doesn't really rhyme, so we're going to eliminate that one. Placed hay. Nope. Play hay. Yeah, that one might work, but we're going to keep trying just in case. Bee and hay. That one doesn't really work either. So our answer choice is C. Now, what I like to do is I like to write my answer choice right next to it so that when I am going back over and making sure that I answered all my questions or filling in my Scantron, I see my answer twice so that I can double check and make sure that I am filling in the right answer. Let's go ahead and move on to number 2. Which sentence from the selection best supports the idea that Miss Sullivan feels frustrated with Andrew? So the question is asking us to find a sentence from below that best supports the idea that Miss Sullivan feels frustrated with Andrew. So as we're looking at these answer choices, we need to see what it says about Miss Sullivan and Andrew and being frustrated. So let's look at F. Miss Sullivan continued, "We'll treat this like an investigation." Well, this first one, it talks about Miss Sullivan, but it doesn't have anything directed towards Andrew. So more likely than not, this is not going to be our answer choice. So we're going to go ahead and eliminate it. Then we have G. Who would want to steal granola? Andrew asked. Well, this one, so very similar to how it has on just Miss Sullivan in the first one, this one only has Andrew. H. Miss Sullivan was about to scold him when she saw Enola sitting with her hand raised. Well, this one mentions Miss Sullivan and a him, which would be referring to a boy, which is Andrew. So that one could possibly be it. Now, my thing went a little fast, but the J says Andrew was in charge. And the answer was H because it only had Andrew in that first one. Number 3, what identifies this story as realistic fiction? Realistic fiction. Oh my goodness. We need to break this one down, you guys. So the word realistic. Well, if we look at the root word in realistic, which is real, we know that it's referring to something that is real. Something that's actually going to happen or could actually happen. Then if we break it down and we look at fiction, we know the difference between nonfiction and fiction. And fiction means that it's not real, while nonfiction means that it's real. So how could something be real but not be real? That's a little confusing. So let me break it down for you. Realistic fiction, it's something that the story could, sorry, I'm writing and talking. It's when the story is not actually real, but a situation in the story could actually happen. So the story of the passage that we just read, it's not actually true. It's not based on a true story, but it could actually happen. A class pet could actually get out and eat some food of some of the students. It's not something that is like a fantasy that there's no way in the world that could possibly happen. So let's keep that in mind as we are looking through the answer choices. So we have a talking guinea pig. Well, a talking guinea pig, that's not real. So we know that that's something that's just fiction. So we're going to eliminate that one. Then we have B, a third-person narrator. Well, third-person narrators, we know third person means that the narrator is on the outside of the story telling the story, but they don't know how everyone feels. And there were a lot of instances in this story where we knew how someone felt. So we're going to go ahead and cancel this one out and look at C, a plot line involving a class pet. Well, we know that some classes in some schools, they'll have a class pet. So we'll look at that one. And then we'll look at D as well because it's a believable sequence of events and lifelike characters. That sounds a lot like what we just said, that the story is not real, but the situation could happen in real life. It's something believable and the characters are lifelike. But the thing is that many really good stories, even fiction stories, can have believable events and lifelike characters. It's just like when we have movies, okay, and they seem so real, and the characters, they come to life, but they're not actually really there. And the point of it isn't really going to happen. So our answer is C. It's the most realistic fiction one we could have. Now, let's look at number 4. Which word from paragraph 18 helps the reader understand the meaning of the word culprit? So this tells us exactly where to go back and find it. And we did mention it earlier, but we didn't underline it. But I was right, guys. 90% of the time, we're going to have it in here. So it is important to highlight it. So we find paragraph 18, and I'm going to go ahead and highlight it now for you guys. It says, I think we have found our culprit, Miss Sullivan announced. I'm also going to go ahead and underline it for you. Now, the key on looking at these, so it wants us to find what the meaning is. It's not asking us about syllables or anything else. It's asking about the meaning. So what we want to look for, and the biggest tip that I can give you, is to always look at the sentence that is before the one in question and after the one in question. So we're going to look at the sentences before and after. So we have, everything looks, then she realized that Mr. Nibbles was missing. She smiled as she signaled the class to attention by clapping her hands. I think we have found our culprit, Miss Sullivan announced. Or rather, we have lost our thief. It's very important to read the ones before and after so that you can better understand what the possible meaning could be. Okay? Now, the first sentences in the beginning, they don't really tell us too much that could help. It does tell us that something's missing, but it really mostly just says that there's a tension with clapping. Now, the sentence after really does help us. It says, or rather, we have lost our thief. Thief. If we read it again, I think we have found our culprit, Miss Sullivan announced, or rather, we have lost our thief. I feel like that's going to give us a huge help on what it could possibly be. So let's go ahead and look at our answer choices. Now, another way to help you with questions like this is by putting the answer choices into the sentence. So replacing culprit with the word announced is what we're going to try to do. So I'm going to go over here and make it a note for you guys to put it into the sentence. And you're going to see, does it make sense or does it not make sense? If it doesn't make sense, that's more than likely going to tell you, hey, this is not my answer choice. So let's go ahead and try it. I think we have found our announced, Miss Sullivan announced, or rather, we have lost our thief. Announced does not sound right at all. Let's try thief. I think we have found our thief, Miss Sullivan announced, or rather, we have lost our thief. That one could work, but just because we found our answer doesn't mean we're going to automatically choose it. We have to look at all of them. So we have teams and assignment left. I think we have found our teams, Miss Sullivan announced, or rather, we have lost our thief. I think we have found our assignment, Miss Sullivan announced, or rather, we have lost our thief. Neither one of those makes sense or sound correct. So we're going to eliminate it and choose letter G. Now on to number 5. What are paragraphs 14 and 15 mostly about? When a question is asking you what 2 paragraphs are about, the first thing you need to go do is read both of those paragraphs again and make some notes on them. So we're going to go back to paragraph 14 and 15, read them again and refresh our memory and make some notes on them. So here's 14 and here's 15. 14. The students in Miss Sullivan's class scrambled to look for clues. Enola organized the kids into teams. Each team focused their effort on a different part of the classroom. One team was in charge of interviewing Regina and any other students who had seen Regina's bag with the granola. So 14 is mostly revolving around the fact that there's teams and that they're trying to find something and they're working together to find something. More specifically, the granola bar that's missing. Then we have 15. The classroom was buzzing with excitement as children crawled under tables, snooped behind bookshelves, and inspected every surface in the room. Andrew was in charge of evidence. He had sealed the empty paper bag in a large gallon-sized freezer baggie. He wasn't sure why this was necessary, but he had seen the detectives on televisions treat evidence this way. Some of the other boys wanted to have evidence bags as well. So again, this paragraph is talking about them working in teams and finding the evidence. So there is excitement, excuse me, I'm misspelling it. There is excitement around finding the granola bar. There's excitement of searching. We still have the kids in teams and what exactly they're doing. So let's go ahead and let's do process of elimination of our answer choices and look through them all. A, how the children were organized to search for the missing granola bar. Well, it does talk about that. Let's try another one. How Andrew treated the evidence of the missing granola bar. Well, that one could work too. We have that one in 14 and 15 as well. C, the sound made by the children as they search for the missing granola bar. Now, I know that at the beginning of paragraph 15, it mentions the buzzing of the classroom. So here we have it. The classroom was buzzing with excitement. That's only in paragraph 15, and it's only one small mention of it. It's not the whole or both of those paragraphs. That's not what both of them are mostly about. So we're going to go ahead and eliminate it. D, how Eliza was able to identify the thief. Okay, I don't know about you, but we didn't talk about Eliza at all in 14 or 15, so that one is an easy one to cross off. Let's go back and look at A and B. How the children were organized to search for the missing granola bar. That one I can see us still having because we discussed it in both paragraphs, both in paragraph 14 and 15. So we'll leave that one again. B, how Andrew treated the evidence of the missing granola bar. So in paragraph 14, did it talk about Andrew with the evidence? No, it didn't. It only talked about it in 15. So our answer is A. 6. Which details from the story indicated that Regina feels sad at the beginning of the story? So we want to find which detail where it tells us Regina feels sad at the beginning of the story. Let's emphasize beginning because that tells us where in the story we're going to look. F, Regina's voice trembles and her eyes are wide. Now, if you've ever heard the word tremble before, you know exactly that is a huge indicator for the word feeling sad. You're trembling, you're shaking. G, Andrew finds a tear in the top of Regina's bag. Nope, that has nothing to do with Regina. H, the students check their desks to see if anyone has stolen their snacks. Again, that has nothing to do with Regina. We want to know about Regina. J, Regina held up her empty sack and spoke to the class. This one's about Regina, but it's not telling us about how she's feeling. It's telling us about an action. So, number 6 is F. 7. Look at the events in this diagram. Regina holds up her empty bag. Miss Sullivan inspects the bag. Andrew finds a tear in the top of the bag. Based on these events, what does Andrew conclude? What does Andrew conclude? Okay. So this is definitely something we are going to have to go back into the passage to find and figure out. So in the diagram, it's a sequence of events. It is happening in a specific order, and we need to go back into the passage and look at this order. So let's look at our answer choices and see before we go. So that way, in case we hear it, we know. Someone is playing a trick on Regina. Nobody likes the taste of granola bars. Miss Sullivan is the thief. A thief stole the granola bar. All right, so let's look for Regina holding up the empty bag. So that was in sentence 1. So it's all the way up here. So there's our first part of our diagram. And I'm going to go ahead and put number 7 so we remember that this goes with question number 7. Then we're going to find Miss Sullivan walked over to Regina and she asked to see the bag. So Miss Sullivan is inspecting the bag. So here I'm going to write number 7 again. And then we need to find where Andrew is looking at the bag as well. Which here it is. It has a tear at the top, he pointed out. Put number 7 again. So here we can see the first part, the second part, and the third part in our diagram. And what we want to know is we want to find out, what did Andrew think of after he saw the tear in the bag? So if we think about our answer choices again, okay, and we look after the sequence, here's a huge hint. We've got to find the thief. That's what he said right after he saw the tear in the top of the bag. And when you look at it in order of events, that's what's next. So A, someone is playing a trick on Regina. It doesn't mention that anywhere. C, Miss Sullivan is the thief. He doesn't say Miss Sullivan is the thief at all. I don't know if he would tell his teacher that she's the thief. Then on B, he says something about the granola. Well, here is what he says about the granola and questioning why someone would want granola, but it's in between the first and second part. It doesn't come after for Andrew to conclude it. So that's definitely not going to be our answer either. So we're going to cross that out. A thief stole the granola bar. Well, we already know that that's something Andrew said right after the third one. So D is our answer. 8. Read these sentences from the story. Andrew made a few of the boys in the class laugh as he went to the science cabinet and found a hand lens. Miss Sullivan, we need to find some forensic evidence if we're going to close this case. Which sentence best describes Andrew's behavior in Miss Sullivan's class? F. Andrew is rude and frequently offends his classmates. Well, he's really just trying to make his class laugh. He's not offending any of his actual classmates. He might be getting into trouble with Miss Sullivan, but he's not offending his class. G. Andrew makes poor grades, but Miss Sullivan finds him charming. Nowhere in this sentence does it talk about Andrew's poor grades or his grades at all. Andrew has trouble fitting in with the other students and tends to keep to himself. This talks about him making other kids laugh, so it's definitely not him being by himself. J. Andrew enjoys clowning around and attracting attention. Well, the fact that he was making them laugh is going to be a huge indicator that our answer is J. All right, guys, so I know that it kind of looks like a hot mess, but this is how it is insanely helpful to use your strategies to find the correct answers and go back and forth into your passage to find the evidence that goes with those. Like I said, you guys, I truly believe that strategies are going to be the best way to help you. I hope that this video was as helpful as possible. I also want us to look at the passage, and see how much more I wrote on it for it to help me with answering those questions. And even though we didn't have an author's purpose question, we'll still go over the author's purpose just to practice it. So for P, did the author try to persuade us in this passage? Did he try to convince us of something? No, he did not try to persuade us. So this is not the author's purpose of this passage. Is his purpose to inform? Is he telling us about something important? Well, he is telling us about the case of the missing granola bar, so maybe that could be it. What about entertain? Entertain. Is the author trying to entertain us? Is he trying to give us a fun story? More than likely, yes. This is the author's purpose, is to entertain the audience. It's definitely more so for entertain than it would be for inform or explain, which is the next E. But yes, so as you can see, you can clearly see all of my strategies, and it was all very helpful for me with answering the questions. I know it takes a little bit more time, you guys, but when you take the time to do this, you are more successful on your passages. If you need anything, you know where to find me. Bye, you guys.